So today I'm going to talk about kinks, fetishes, and BDSM. I have my stories. Please like, comment, and subscribe to support my channel. And explicit versions of my stories are available on my other platforms. Go under my channel banner on the homepage. You'll see the links and click through. So today I'm going to talk about kinks and fetishes, and BDSM guy is going to be in a separate video. Kinks and fetishes are, so a fetish is a kink, but a kink isn't necessarily always a fetish. A kink is something unusual and usually non-sexual that will get you aroused. So a lot of people find stockings, like silk stockings, women's stockings, arousing, right? In and of themselves are not sexual, they're a garment of clothing. But a lot of people find them to be very arousing and very sexual. So that might be a kink that you have, stockings. Now, if you can only get off with a stocking in your hand, then it's a fetish, right? So most of what I'm going to talk about in my interactions and experiences are with kinks. There are quite a few common kinks in my experience. One of them is a breeding kink. A lot of people have, men and women share a breeding kink. It's hot to be like, I want to have your baby, put a baby in me. It's hot. It can be hot. I like mirrors. So like if there's a mirror on the ceiling or there's mirrors, I like that a lot. I like it. So people have all different types of kinks, right? There's some very unusual ones. Like I've read about people being very into electricity play, and there's kinks, people fantasizing about being with ghosts. There's all sorts of things, and who cares? You know, you're an adult. You're not, as long as you're not hurting anybody, you're not crossing anybody's boundaries, you're not taking advantage of anybody vulnerable. Do you, baby? Do you? So so there's the breeding kink that I like. That's a common one. Another common one I've found is race play. Race play. I would imagine that the race play kink has a lot to do with power dynamics. Like, so America has a very fraught history with race, and people continue to bear the burden to this day. So a lot of the ways that people reconcile their emotions and their experience and their role in it all is through race play fantasies. So I'll go from the most benign to the most extreme experience I've had with this. So I told you guys about the couple I saw at Trapeze. It was a black girl, a white guy, and he was pulling her on a leash. I saw them twice. Both times I went. So I would imagine if I saw them twice on the 2 random nights I went, then they're probably there pretty often, and they're probably a couple. So I don't have any reason to assume that this is race play. They might have just been 2 people who found their soulmates, and she's a submissive and he's a dominant, and they just lived happily ever after. Or maybe sometimes she puts him on a leash. You know, I don't know what their thing is. So I'm not going to necessarily categorize. They're the most, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, they're a 0. In my opinion, that's a 0. And more like a 5, 6 on the scale is an experience I had. I met this guy online, and the relationship played out online only. We were just talking and testing because he lived in Georgia. But we had great banter. We had great chemistry over the phone. And he disclosed to me that he had a very specific kink. His kink was to be cuckolded by his girlfriend or wife. He liked to pretend that the person was his wife. He liked to be cuckolded by his wife and a black man. And to take it further, his fantasy his kink was to be humiliated by his community and his family and her family for not only being cuckolded by his white wife and a black man, but for his wife to have been impregnated by that black man and him raising that baby. So it just seemed to me like he wanted to lose all control, right, of all the things that have kept him in control all his life, right? So I found that pretty, I appreciated his honesty. I appreciated him opening up to me about that. And as an immigrant, you know, I got here when I was 13. I don't bear the burden of white guilt. I don't think any immigrant should. But clearly, like a white guy from Georgia who grew up there and whose parents grew up there and whose grandparents grew up there, there's some issues, right? There's some issues there. And so he was just, I guess, trying to work those out through sexual fantasy. And that's fine. I think that's benign as well. I wouldn't, maybe not like a 5-6. I'd call it like a 4-5. I did meet a guy who took it to like a 9. I had one date with this guy, one date only. He cut it off. I'll tell you why in a minute. But he approached me and he asked me my ethnicity, and I said I was Iranian. And he's like, oh, my first mistress was Iranian. I said, oh, tell me more about her. So he, back in his home state, I think he said he was from like DC. He had met an Iranian woman. She was a dentist, and she had kind of introduced him to the fet life, to fetish events, lifestyle events. So kink, fetish, and swinger kind of usually falls under the umbrella as far as people congregating. So kink people and fetish people might congregate at lifestyle events and so on and so forth. So she introduced him to kink life, and she was his mistress and he was her slave. And she would take him to events on a leash, and he would have to sit on all fours like a dog. I think she would refer to him as a dog. And he would also serve as her footstool. And I believe he would like run random errands for her and stuff like that. Their relationship was not sexual. So I divide people into two groups: the people who want sex and the people who don't. BDSM people typically don't want sex, and this guy didn't want sex. So he communicated his kinks, but he was more BDSM. I have another BDSM story. I'll tell that story in another video. So some people aren't into the sex. Some people just aren't into the sex. Some people want to just feel, like I said, with the texting guy, he wanted to feel out of control. A lot of people just want to feel like they have zero control, like they have zero power. So this incorporated, this guy, there was a lot going on here. This guy it eventually disclosed to me that he was looking for a couple to serve. He wanted a master and a mistress. And I said, well, I don't have a partner, and that's not going to happen for a while. I said, but why don't you just talk to me and tell me about the experience, your best experience with a master and mistress dynamic. So he had served this couple. I think the guy was black American, and the woman was Dominican or Jamaican or something, and a racial minority. And he was their slave. So he would run errands for them. He would drive them to their dates. He would pay for the date, wait in the car, and drive them home. When they were intimate, he would sit in a corner on all fours and wait for them to be done. He enjoyed cleaning their toilets. And he enjoyed being punished by them. So if you're not comfortable hearing the rest, pause now. You can pause on my wonderful dress here. But if you want to hear the rest of the story, go ahead. Feel free. He enjoyed being punished by them. He enjoyed it. Okay, he enjoyed this. So he had agreed to take them to the airport. They were supposed to go out of town. And he had agreed to take them to the airport, and he was late. And he caused them to miss their flight. So as a punishment, they threw him in the shower and made him they caged him, imprisoned him in the shower. They caged him in the shower. He wasn't allowed to leave. And they had rescheduled the flight for like 18 hours, like a few hours later, like 9 hours later or whatever hours later. And he wasn't allowed to leave the shower. And whenever they wanted to use the bathroom, they would do it on him. So now we're introducing another kink called waterworks. So he incorporated that. He enjoyed being punished by this racial minority couple in a variety of ways. This guy was a very clean-cut white guy. He was a in-house counsel for a real estate investment firm, probably making like $250,000 a year. Very, very, very handsome, very clean cut, very, I remember when we went to dinner and I saw him, I'm like, oh, you're good looking. Very presentable, very nice looking. And that's what he likes. That's what he likes. That's what he's looking for. He's not looking for a relationship. He's not looking for a girlfriend. He expressed, he's like, I've dated, but it's just not what I'm looking for. He enjoys that. What I told you, he enjoys being punished in that way by a racial minority, be it an Iranian woman or a black couple. So for every person who's into this sort of thing, there's usually someone willing to participate and who gets off on doing it. He gets off on having it done to him, and there are people out there who get off on doing it. So this is for every one person I tell you about, there's an equal and opposite person who's into it as well, who gives them what they ask for. So it's not my thing. The race play thing is not my thing. The race play thing I don't quite get. Waterworks is definitely not my thing. I've been asked for that often enough to know that it's a thing. It's a big thing, but I'm just not into it. And usually by white men, a powerful, accomplished white men. They want to be peed on. And I had a girlfriend tell me a story about a guy who wanted that. She was black, and he wanted that done to her. So it goes beyond. It goes way beyond sex and kink. Race play and being punished by white people, being punished in this way by black folk or racial minorities, goes way beyond sex. It goes way beyond. I feel like it's it could be some sort of karmic or mental balancing out of white guilt or unequal power dynamics in life. But that's beyond my realm. That is way beyond my realm, right? I acknowledge it. I understand it. I understand it exists. I understand it goes way deeper than just a sexual thing. Maybe I can look for a book on that. It might be interesting, but I understand it goes way deeper than just sexual pleasure. So I'll talk about it's about power, right? Like I said, like balancing out power. Maybe these guys feel like they have an unfair amount of power, and they want to balance it out somehow. They feel some relief by having it balanced out. To each their own. We are not here to judge. I am not here to judge, and I will not accept any judgy, nasty comments on my channel. We're here to have a discussion and a mature conversation. I don't know why people open up to me or how I end up meeting these kinds of people. Obviously, I'm very open, and I'm open-minded, so people just talk to me. So, but this is about respectful discourse. These people are being vulnerable, and I'm being vulnerable, and I'm not going to accept any judgy, negative, nasty comments down below. But if you want to disclose your kinks, if you want to disclose your thoughts in a respectful way, please do. Please do. I read every single comment. And then I'll talk about BDSM guy in my next video. I'm going to film that now.